Hi and welcome to Samsung DIY Repair channel. In this video I'm going to show you how to refit all the components to your Samsung RS21 or Samsung SRS fridge repair kit. The first thing to start with is the drain heater. Now make sure your drain hole is clear. There's sometimes ice down there, so make sure you've cleared the ice by a steam gun or hot water or something like that. Basically the drain heater can be a bit tricky, but if you sort of manoeuvre it over, make sure the pink wires are going down the drain hole and just snap it into position. Put the wires up the side there, tidy them off a bit. And you'll notice I've got the evaporator slightly pulled forward. You can do that, but watch you don't pull it too much. You can sort of pop it off its little plastic hooks to work on. The next thing I tend to do is I put the evaporator heater on itself, which is this component here. That's your evaporator heater. Again, it looks a bit tricky, but half the time they fall back into place, just in case you're going over the little aluminium lugs and closing them over again, and put some cable ties on. So basically just set it in place. Normally what I do is I try and get a couple of the bottom ones on over here, get my long nose pliers and squeeze the aluminium lugs back round. By doing this, that gives you a wee bit more freedom with both your hands to sort of work up and down the other ones that need to be put on. Now, just sort of work up, make sure that they're going back into position. This one went on quite nicely. I've been to ones where I've had a bit of a battle. Have a look at the element before you fit it and just sort of square it, you know, make sure it's not sitting sort of all bent out of shape before you put it on. They can get a wee bit bent out of shape when they're delivered, or you know, when you take them out of the packet or stuff like that. But basically all I'm doing is I'm going up and down the little lugs, squeezing them over, making sure everything's in place, and that's that. What I tend to do at this point is just plug in you've got your drain heater and your evaporator heater, just plug them in just now, just make sure you don't forget them. What you're looking to do is sort of tidy the wires as you go, so the wire that's coming off the defrost heater, tuck that round the back there, just bring it over there. Again, what I do at this point, because I've got the cooler unit sort of off its plastic lugs, is I'll put the thermal fuse in. If you watch, I'm putting it right behind, put a cable tie through the cooler, back round, and just make sure that's nice and tight there, and cut the cable tie. What I'll do is I'll take the camera off its mount here, just to try and get round there and show you where the thermal fuse is. It's a bit hard to show, but it's right at the back. Don't fall into the trap and cable tie it in the middle or at the front. The component is a thermal fuse. It's rated to sort of trip out about 80 degrees, 78 to 80 degrees. If you cable tie it onto the front here, you're cable tying it straight onto a heater. If you cable tie it in the middle, you're cable tying it straight onto the heater leg. So it must go right at the back. Now I'll show you the aluminium lugs. Sort of close them all back over. It can be tricky, but just in case you're having a look at them and sort of maybe squeezing them again if you don't think they're properly sort of shut over. I'll just get this camera back on its mount. Yeah, that's okay. Now, what I tend to do at this point is sort of just square the cooler back off a bit. Make sure the wires are sort of coming up the side there. Drain heater sitting alright, and I pop the cooler back onto its lugs. You can slightly manipulate the cooler. Sometimes it wants to pop back off the lugs, you've just got to sort of move it back and forwards. Make sure your wires are all connected in. Now, what you want to do now is just sort of make sure your wires are sort of tucked in at the back here. I'll put the thermal fuse in. That goes right at the top. You can plug your defrost heater in, which goes in the middle. Again, just make sure your wires are tucked in. Tuck that connector at the back there. Now, what you've got to fit now is your defrost sensor. You'll notice that goes in the very bottom plug. Pop that in. And the little defrost sensor connects and block. You just put that around the pipe. Excuse me a second. Have to put the camera down for a second. Now that's the connector back on there. You have to excuse me here, I'm trying to do this one-handed with the video camera. But basically just clip your sensor in there and pop that back over like that. Now you can see the wires sort of dangling down and sitting up there. Basically just tidy the sensor wire off in here at the top. Just make sure it's not going to interfere with the fan housing recess here. Put a cable tie around that, and that'll be that. The wire's tidied up.